Dear friends, welcome to another episode in the fantastic military world. In this video, we will discuss a recent statement from the French President, Emmanuel Macron, who said that the deployment of European troops to Ukraine cannot be ruled out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and activate the notification bell to not miss any updates. On this Monday, February 26th, French President Emmanuel Macron organized a meeting with the 20 top leaders committed to supporting Ukrainian defense. The aim was to convey a message of cohesion in one of the most challenging times for Ukraine, which has been facing over 3 months of the Republican Congress's blockade for military aid. During this meeting, Macron announced the creation of a European coalition for the deployment of long-range weapons, one of the most critical items for Ukrainian defense, as it allows for the destruction of Russian bases and structures in the rear. This type of attack deeply affects not only the logistics and capability of troops on the front line, but also morale and readiness for combat. Macron emphasized that in the current phase of the conflict, marked by the aforementioned blockade of American aid, Russia is taking advantage of Ukrainian weakening to advance in some frontline points. Macron warned that Putin's goal is not only to expand Russia's territory through the conquest of Ukraine, but also to attack and conquer other territories in the region. This includes Georgia, a small country with 20% of its territory under Russian military occupation since 2008, and mainly Moldova, a country squeezed between Ukraine and Romania, a full member of NATO. Macron's warning also refers to the pressure Putin has been exerting on the most peripheral members of the alliance, notably the Baltic countries, which share a direct border with Russia and were formerly part of the Soviet Union. According to Macron and other European leaders like German Olaf Scholz and British Rishi Sunak, if Putin wins in Ukraine and annexes all that territory, the next targets will go far beyond Georgia and Moldova, with the alliance itself being at risk. This is particularly true after former President and candidate Donald Trump explicitly stated that he would encourage Vladimir Putin to do as he pleases with alliance members who are not investing at least 2% of GDP in defense. In the context of serious threats to European security, Macron touched on a highly sensitive topic: the deployment of European troops to directly combat Russian forces invading Ukraine. So far, Ukraine's allies have limited themselves to providing financial and military aid in the form of weapons and ammunition. However, it is estimated that around 10,000 foreigners are fighting in Ukraine, all of them volunteers, many of them European and mainly from Poland, a country that suffered under the terrible yoke of Soviet Russia for decades and therefore knows better than anyone the danger of having an expansionist Russia right on its doorstep. Macron made it clear that there is no consensus on this matter, but the French president also made it clear that the official deployment of European troops to Ukraine cannot be ruled out. This would be a radical move that would profoundly change relations between Europe and Russia, effectively formalizing a state of war between some European nations and Russia, something that last happened in the 1940s during World War II. However, unlike that conflict, this effort would be purely defensive, aiming to prevent Russia's advance into other Ukrainian regions and, of course, to expel the occupying forces from areas illegally annexed by Moscow. But, at the same time, it would contribute to further escalating tensions with Russia, potentially leading Putin to attack targets within the alliance since, in practice, in this context of deploying European troops, these countries would officially be at war with Russia. When Macron touches on the topic of troop deployment, he is not only referring to soldiers, but also to aircraft, with air cover being essential for large-scale military operations. If Europeans send warplanes, they will also send even more air defenses, all of which will be duly accompanied by heavy armored vehicles and support vehicles. This vast human and material apparatus would inevitably provoke a reaction from Putin, a reaction that, depending on the scale of this European effort, could even involve tactical nuclear bombs against specific targets within Ukraine, such as military bases and command and communication centers. Putin recently made it very clear that if Ukraine joins NATO, and if the alliance directly involves itself in the war, Russia, facing a much superior adversary, will have no choice but to use nuclear weapons. The involvement of some European countries directly in the conflict, even if not involving NATO as a whole, could be seen by Putin as an equivalent scenario, further contributing to bringing the world closer to nuclear holocaust. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, Subscribe and activate the notification bell to not miss any news, criticisms, ideas, or suggestions. You can leave them in the comments.